It's time for the Richmond Register Sports Show. Every Thursday at 9 p.m., Richmond Register sports editor Nathan Hutchinson and sports writer Ricki Barker will update you on the latest events in Madison County sports. Tune in on YouTube or on any of our social media networks. Welcome to the show.
The following program is brought to you by Nuevo Vallarta on Big Hill Avenue.
All right, welcome everybody to the very first edition of the Richmond Register Sports Show. I'm Richmond Register sports editor Nathan Hutchinson. This is Richmond Register sports writer Ricki Barker. And we're excited to be launching this new product here. It's something we've kind of thought about for a long time. We've kind of wanted to do. You excited?
Yeah, oh yeah. Always.
Always. But the reason we wanted to kind of do this was that we both live in Madison County, and we both lived here for a long time. This is our full-time job. We do this every day. We really enjoy what we do, and the whole point of what we do every day is to highlight the people of Madison County and try to get lots of kids' names, pictures, and faces in the paper and highlight their accomplishments, and that's what we hope to do with this show as well. This will be a 100% local Madison County show. We will not have people from Estill County on here. No. We won't talk about the Reds or the Bengals or the New England Patriots or the NBA. This is going to be 100% Madison County. We're going to have local people on here. Today we have the great Danny Hope, the former EKU coach, football coach. He's now back with the program as an offensive line coach. But we'll have great guests like him on every week, and there'll be local people that you all know and love and can really give an insight into what we do here. But this is it will be 100% Madison County, and that's what we want. That's why we're here.
Oh yeah,
we do this
definitely.
That's why we do this every day. Well, we want to start off every show with kind of just a recap of what's happened here in the last week and kind of hit some of the bigger events that happened. And of course, last Friday we had the Doc Sipple Bowl down at Madison Southern.
Very hot day.
Yes, it was. A long night too. The second game didn't end until almost midnight. But two good football games. Madison Southern obviously picked up a 42-27 win over Danville. Unfortunately, Central lost to LCA 45-15. But you covered the Southern win. Kind of your thoughts on that? Another big game for Tobias. Tobias Storm had 3 touchdowns.
Oh, absolutely. Back-to-back wins, first time since 2017. They were very excited, very pumped. You could tell when they took the field, they were ready to go. That offense was speedy, quick touchdowns. And Tobias, again, just rolling right through. He got a little good on the passing game a lot this time. Hit Cameron Colbert for a really good touchdown. A.J. Jones stepped up, had a lot of good receiving touchdowns. Yeah, 2 touchdowns for Adrian Jones. And unfortunately, Central didn't fare quite as well, 45-15, like we said. Cannon Centers did have 2 touchdown passes, one to John Lansau, one to Ashton Holberg. Southern now 2-2, Central 0-4. They have a matchup this weekend with Lafayette. Southern goes to Pulaski County. That'll be a tough matchup on the road. Yes, they are 3-1.
Yeah, traditional rival there too. They were in the same district a few years ago, and John Clark and Johnny Hines have quite a bit of history between the two coaches there. So
yeah, I joked with Tobias. I was like, you guys kind of strung all those big games together, Central, and then you had the Titletown with the Danville. They were previous state winners, and then now Pulaski County. So they're kind of hitting it all at the same time.
Yeah, and Central takes on a Lafayette team. It's also 0-4 this week. So both those teams will be hungry to get a win, and still a long way to go. I know Central's 0-4, but they graduated 26 kids from that team, the region championship team, a year ago. So they're making strides. I know it's a bit of a work in progress, but they're getting better. Now, Berea community football has been kind of the story of the year so far here in the county. And
undefeated.
It's very, very interesting. They had last week off, and they will have this week off again because we got word yesterday that Jenkins Independent had canceled their football program, so they will not have a home game this Friday night.
Which ends up as a forfeit, so an automatic win for the Pirates.
Yeah, they go to 4-0, so they are 4-0, but they will not play this week. But you were down there yesterday talking to Jared and Jalen Whitaker,
the twins,
the seniors who are kind of the leaders of that team, the quarterback and the receiver. So kind of. You talked with those young men, talk about your experience with them and kind of what you thought of them.
Outstanding young gentlemen. Love football. They grew up, that was what they thought. They told me yesterday that as kids that if they couldn't find a football, they would make one. So they were telling me about that. That's been their dream. They've been at Berea during some lean times. There were a couple of years ago where I don't think Berea was even thinking about even having a team because they couldn't have enough, and Jalen and Jared were there during that time. They talked about the brotherhood that's formed there. I mean, obviously they're close, they're twins, and so they've always been brothers, but they talked about how the program has changed and how that's ending up as wins on the football field.
Yeah, and really cool. They call them mirror twins.
Jalen is right-handed, he's the quarterback. Jared is left-handed, he's the running back.
Yeah. And in the very first game of the year, Jackson County,
a very special moment for them.
Yeah, connection there with a touchdown pass from one to the other.
Yeah, it was Jalen's first start as quarterback his senior year. He played a little bit last year, but then got a concussion, didn't get to get their first win last year in Jellicoe. But this year he was able to start, got the first win, and got to get Jared his first touchdown ever from his brother. Yeah. So it was cool. A nice moment for them.
Very cool. And they will not play this Friday, but they will be home next Friday against Sayre. So if you want to come out and support them, there they are. It's great. They lost 43 straight at one point over 4 seasons, and it's really great. We're not supposed to play favorites, but it's just nice to see everybody succeed. And
yes.
All 3 of our football teams are in different classes, and so we can all kind of root for them and hope they all do well. But so nice for them to be 4-0 and kind of put those bad memories behind. And Coach Step's done a great job down there.
Oh, absolutely.
He was there before, and he wanted to come back and do it right. And
I've talked to numerous players, Timmy Thompson, the Whitaker twins, all of them have just praised that coaching staff there and how that they have made them believe and made them work harder and just have their backs. And so
no, it's a great story, and they're even starting to get some attention from other media outlets and statewide media outlets. So that's really nice for them, considering they were basically
kind of the forgotten ones for a little bit,
off the radar for a lot of years. But just to kind of recap some other things that happened over the weekend, and on Sunday, the Madison Central boys soccer team defeated Holy Cross 4-1 in the championship game of the Tomahawk Classic over at the turf fields over at Central. So that was a team also that got off to a little bit of a rough start, but they've won, I think, 4 of the last 5 now. They're playing really well. Kind of getting their things together, but they lost that tournament last year, their own tournament, in a shootout in the championship game. But this year,
it's rough.
It was 1-1 with about 15 minutes left, and Hunter Martin banged in a rebound, and they got 2 more goals after that. So Central wins their own Tomahawk Classic with a 4-1 win on Sunday. Over the weekend, the Madison Southern volleyball team went up to Montgomery County, and for the first time ever, won the Dink Scott Memorial. They won all 5 games, all 5 matches. Didn't drop a set.
Yeah, Coach Jeremy Grant said that they had been there, to his knowledge, at least 8 years in a row, had never won it, and then won it this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Then they came back on Monday and beat Berea, and then yesterday they picked up a win over East Jessamine. So 7 straight wins for those guys. I think they're like 19-3 now or something on the season.
They're a good team.
Yeah, and then the Berea volleyball team, they finished 2nd at a tournament in Adair County over the weekend.
Yeah, near miss for them. Nearly got it.
Yeah, and they came back, and you were there on Monday. They took Southern to 4 sets. I mean, Southern obviously right now would be considered the district favorite, but Berea came out and won the first set and gave them all they wanted. Yeah,
they showed a lot of heart on that court. They showed the will to win. Malia Penn led her team. It was amazing to just see them kind of come and kind of almost startle Southern a little bit. You could kind of see Southern go, but Coach Jared Penn said that, that Adair County tournament really kind of pumped them up, said they've kind of come together as a team, and they showed it against a very, very good district opponent.
Yeah, and then Tuesday night they rolled past Barberville pretty easily, 3-0. So they're doing really well. The seedings for the girls' district soccer were decided Monday.
Yes.
And Central picked up a 1-0 win on the road over Model, and that set up the district with Southern being the #1 seed, Central 2, Model 3, and Berea 4. Going into that game, we knew Model and Central would be the 2 and the 3. It just depended on who won, who would be the 2 and who would be the 3. But a 1-0 win. It was Shelby Morrison with the only goal of that game, so that wrapped up that. And over the weekend, also the Central girls golf team finished 2nd at the Henry Clay Invitational. Maddie Neely finished 3rd individually, and they are still at number 3 in the latest state golf rankings. And so we're heading toward the region tournament there, and I think they have 2 wins and like five runners up and two thirds, I think. So they've been, as Coach Tenny Orr told me, in the money every time they played. You use a horse racing term there, I suppose. But yeah, I mean.
It's a good week.
Yeah, it's a busy week. It's always a busy week, and it keeps us hopping, and we like that though. The more the merrier. And like I said, we do have just the 2 football games this Friday night: Central at Lafayette, Pulaski. So Southern.
No local games.
Southern
no
at
local
Pulaski.
football games.
There won't be any in here in Madison County, but I'll be at the Lafayette game. our good friend Bob Flynn, who used to work for us, will be doing the game down in Somerset for us. So keep an eye on our social media sites. If you can't be at either game, we are prolific tweeters, and we keep everything up to date as best we can. But we will have full wrap-ups on both games that night as well. But we just, like I said, keep an eye on the Twitter. We hit that pretty hard all the time. So.
And Facebook.
Yeah. Yes.
We are on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook too. But like I said, yeah, you can check us out on Twitter. It's Richmond R Sports, Richmond R Sports, and then Facebook it's just Richmond Register Sports as well for all of that. So that's kind of your recap of the week. We'll be back with a special guest, EKU offensive line coach Danny Hope, after this brief timeout.
Thank you so much for watching the Richmond Register Sports Show, which is brought to you by Nuevo Vallarta.
All right, well, welcome back, folks. This is the very first edition of the Richmond Register Sports Show, and we're very, very excited to have someone I consider a dear friend of mine, Mr. Danny Hope, offensive line coach.
Great to be here.
I've known you for so long. I feel like you're a friend of mine. And for any of you who don't actually know who Danny is, obviously he played at EKU, was on the '79 national championship team. Later came back and was coach for 4 years, head coach at Purdue, and now he's back with the staff as the offensive line coach. So I know when I got the word you were coming back, man, I was so happy, and a lot of other people were too. Just talk about the reaction you've gotten from people around the community about you being back on the staff again.
It's been well received, and I came back for all the right reasons, and I think that excited the Colonel Nation, if you will. But I got a ton of emails and a ton of texts once I came back on board. It was a no-brainer to me in a lot of ways. I was looking for something special to do with this portion of my life. Retirement really wasn't what I was looking for, and it wasn't necessarily looking for a professional opportunity, but more of an opportunity to be part of something special and an experience that would mean something to me, and that's what brought me here.
Yeah, I mean 62 now. What are you?
Well, 61.
61, not 62.
Don't make it worse than what it is, but I'm going on 61.
Yeah. So you're coaching kids that are literally a third of your age, and most of the coaching staff is half your age.
Yeah, I'm the old man around here, and I'm reminded of it on a daily basis. But I tell you that I work with a great group of guys. Our staff is outstanding. Mm-hmm. Our head coach is first class. He's a jewel to work for, and he's done an outstanding job as far as the quality of people that he's brought on board, not just from a staff standpoint, but from a player personnel standpoint. And I've had a blast. Having a blast with the players. We have a lot of fun, and it's been a great fit. It really has. Yeah.
Now you told me when you first got the job that you said you weren't really good with the gizmos and gazmos, and you're not really good at texting really either. I mean, you're kind of technologically impaired compared to some of the other guys.
That's very kind to put it that way. I'm really bad at it, and that's been probably the biggest challenge is to try to coach football now with all the information that's available. I feel like we spend a huge portion of our time processing information, and I'm not a very good button pusher. I've learned a lot since I've been here, not just football, but in regards to the field, the technology fields in regards to what we have to do on a daily basis. But that's probably been my biggest challenge coming back, is to try to coach football as they do it nowadays, processing the masses of information. There's so much more information involved in football compared to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Offenses with tons of formations, hurry-up offenses. The defenses are much more complicated, so the information part is really, the magnitude of that is really unbelievable.
Yeah, I was gonna actually flash back to what was you in that '79 championship team? What was your playing height and weight?
Well, I came to EKU as a freshman. I was about this size. I was about 6 foot and maybe close to 200 pounds. And I probably weighed in tops about 225, 30 pounds as an offensive lineman, which is nowadays that's certainly unheard of. Yeah. Even back then, though, I was just the smallest offensive lineman. But we weren't a real big football team, but we ran well. And force is mass times velocity squared. So I always hung my hat on that. It wasn't as big as the rest, but I fly in there twice as fast. Yeah, I was going down the roster today. The starting five you put out there on your offensive line are 6'4", 303, 6'4", 295, 6'3", 301, 6'4", 300, and 6'6", 300. I mean, the game has changed so much, and the guys are just so much bigger and more athletic. And like I said, you were an offensive lineman on a national championship team, and you could be dwarfed by these guys. Oh, it's phenomenal, really. We didn't have anybody on our football team as big as the smallest guy that I have on our offensive line right now. So the size of the guys that are playing the game is it's hard to believe. I remember back in the old days, if a guy had a size 12 or 13 shoe, that was considered a really big foot. And then as time went on, if a guy had a 15, that was unheard of. We got guys that wear size 16, 17 shoes. So we're a big offensive line, but we're a young offensive line. So even though we have good size, we're going to get bigger and stronger over the next couple of years, and when this group fully develops and becomes seniors, they're going to be a really big, strong, good offensive line.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of local kids on your offensive line. Blake Hammonds graduated from Central, and Trey Livingood from Madison Southern. They're both redshirt freshmen. Right. I guess Blake did get in the Valpo game a little bit. I don't know if he's played in any other games, and I know that Trey's been dealing with an injury, and I don't think he's been able to get out on the field yet.
Both of those guys have done a great job this season. Hammonds, Hambone, as I affectionately refer to him as, he's a go-hard guy, and I've only been here since February. So I've been here, maybe 7 months, if you will, and he's had a complete physical makeover, if you will. He's lost a lot of weight. He's put on a lot of muscle. He runs well. He's one of the hardest workers that we have on our football team. He's been on the travel squad, which I think is pretty good for a guy only in the second year of college. Trey obviously went to Marshall, transferred in, accrued an injury early in spring football. But he has had an unbelievable transformation of his body. He's probably lost 40 pounds in the last several months. He's put a lot of muscle on. He did a great job rehabbing his knee, and he's several weeks ahead, and has just recently came back out on the practice fields and has been given the green light to practice and do contact, and he looks really, really good, and he's going to be an outstanding player for the Colonels.
Yeah. It was interesting to me that a lot of people, when it was announced you were coming back, a few people told me, they were like, why would a guy who's been the head coach here want to come back and be a position coach? And I those people, I kind of said, you don't know him. I mean, obviously, you don't know Danny. One, he just loves football. He loves to coach, and he loves this university. I mean, there's probably nobody besides Coach Kidd who's more identifiable with EKU football than you. And I know that you met your wife here, you raised your kid here. I mean, this is just a special place for you.
It is a special place, and we love Richmond. I had a great experience here. It was a no-brainer. A chance to come back and be a part of something special. I've been coming around the program the last 2 or 3 years, watching the progress, and there have been some challenges, obviously, and that's part of this industry nowadays. It's a very tough profession and a tough industry, but kept an eye on things that were happening and was really impressed with our head football coach, Mark Elder. I thought that he was bringing some top-of-the-line players into the program, and that he has positioned the program to actually springboard on a national level. An opportunity to come back and be a part of that was something that meant a lot to me, and just to be back here in Richmond, to be around people that I care about and care about me, just made it all seem worthwhile.
And let's talk about, obviously, your family. Sally has been working at Western Kentucky, right?
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough. But it was a great job, a great opportunity for her. We have property over in Madison County that we've owned for years, and that's not too far away from where Western Kentucky is at. So she's had a job there the last, I think, 4 years, and has done a fantastic job for them. She recently retired when I came back on board here. It gave her the opportunity to retire. And so she's helping us out in some ways from a football alum standpoint, stays in touch with those guys and rallying those guys up for different reunions and those type of things for this upcoming season. And my son Chaz, very, very proud of him. He went to Eastern, played football at EKU, played at Madison Central. He's a police officer, a sergeant. He's done very, very well with the Officer of the Year last year, so I'm super proud of him. And you know me well enough to know how much of a family man that I am and how much my family means to me. And they're my world, and they're doing very well, so I appreciate you asking about them.
Yeah, and we had not to mention your wife wrote a book.
She wrote a book.
She actually wrote a book. This is she wrote it with was it Janet and Lindy? Who?
That's my stepmom and my sister.
Oh, okay. So that's Janet Hope, Liddy Hope, and Sally Hope, and so it's really more like a kind of a workbook thing. It's more kind of, it's got like I kind of thumbed through it. I didn't read it, but I'm sure you've read it, right? Yeah.
I told her I did anyway. But actually, it was very interesting, because she reflected on a lot of things that are a big part of being a coach's wife. Some are things that people would expect, and there's a lot of things in that book that people would be surprised to read about. So a lot of coaches, head coaches on a national level have purchase her book in bulk and handed it out to their assistant coaches and their wives, and it's good reading. It's good reading.
Yeah. And you told me the other day that the 79 guys are coming back. So tell me a little bit about what's planned. Is it for homecoming coming up? They're going to have a reunion, and was it for? I guess it's 40 years now, right?
Yeah, 40 years. Hard,
40, yeah.
Hard to believe. hard to believe. That was really a close football team. A lot of good football players. Not necessarily the biggest guys, from a size standpoint, but a group of guys that really bonded and played with a lot of heart. And winning in championships was very important to myself and our teammates. We're rallying up this year. I expect a significant portion of that group to be back on our campus, and that's going to be exciting to have all those guys back. We were very close. Back then the rules allowed you to have all your football players in a dorm. And so we lived in the dorm. That was Coach Kidd's rule. And we were a really, really close football family. And a lot of the things that we did together, I can't share with the public on TV.
I can imagine.
It'll be great to have those guys back. And then obviously we have the unveiling of the wall this season. We have Roy Kidd's statue that overlooks the stadium and the field, and behind it a wall of all the guys that played for him and his great career that he had here.
Yeah, every guy who played for him will be on that wall.
Everybody that played for him includes managers, coaches. Everybody was part of his football family and his football life during his great career here. And then probably one of the biggest events that's happened around here in a long time will be the induction of Jack Eisen into the Hall of Fame. He was an outstanding football coach. He was a lot of the pulse and the heartbeat of our football team when I played here. One of the most revered guys that's ever wore a whistle to coach the game of football in my mind. And there'll be a ton of players that will come back here for that reunion and to honor Coach Eisen, somebody that we really love a lot, and that's going to be a really big deal. So tons of former EKU football players coming back this year for the 79 championship reunion, for the induction of Jack Eisen into the Hall of Fame, and the unveiling of the wall.
Okay. I want to flash you back to 2007. Okay. November 10th, 2007. You guys beat Austin Peay to claim at least a share of the OVC championship. It was the first title in 10 years. It was your first title as coach. Sure. It was obviously the last year you were here.
Sure.
I remember that like it was yesterday because they dumped you with water and you were so mad. And you had to deal with, Sean Clark was your offensive line coach, right? And you had to deal with him where he was supposed to protect you.
That was the deal.
So did he not live up to the deal, or did he sabotage you and let those guys do? Because they got you good, too.
They got me really good. He sabotaged me. And when I went to Purdue, I hired him as my offensive line coach, but I had to think about it a while, just based on the sabotage that he arranged for that day. But, man, that really was exciting. We came back here with that mission in mind, to return the program to conference dominance and to be on the brink of emerging back on the program to national prominence. And I think the thing that I'm the proudest of from those group of young men is how much they bought into the mission statement of winning championships at EKU, and how much winning championships is a result of a matter of pride here at EKU. And those guys, they bought into it, they took it to heart, and that fueled our souls, and it was a difference maker. And I love those guys. And we had a chance last year to come back for one of the home games for our first reunion, and a ton of those guys came back, and we picked up right where we left off at. We had a ball, and it was great to see them. And they're going to come back this year as well. They're going to do a reunion on their own and try to do it on an annual basis, a lot like the '67 team. The first Grantland Rice Bowl championship team. They've been a stronghold of our football alum for 50, 60 years now, whatever it may be, and I think the 79 team may assume some of that role themselves.
Yeah, we actually have that picture, and we'll show it to the viewers on the telecast, so you have to watch it to see. But you were not a happy man. I was
just for a minute there. I don't do the ice cold stuff real good. Okay.
Yeah, we got so many stories we could share. The one I tell people all the time, and actually it was on a radio station up in Louisville a while back, and I shared it. But the one I want you to share with everybody, and if people haven't heard it before, was. It was, let me check the date here, October 14th, 1989, the day Chaz was born. And tell us about you going up to Howard Snellenberger.
Wow.
You were an assistant coach at Louisville. Your wife Sally had just called and said, I'm at the hospital. We're going to have the baby. It's your first and only child.
Nice.
And so she called, and so you ran up to Coach Howard Snellenberger and take it from there.
Well, you're close, okay?
Okay.
Actually, she was scheduled to have a C-section on Monday.
Okay.
We were playing Southern Miss, who was a bitter rival for us. at the University of Louisville, and Brett Favre was the quarterback, and she was scheduled to have a C-section on Monday. The game was on Saturday. We'd already gone out on the field and stretched and warmed up, and it was just a few minutes before kickoff, and we were getting ready to head out of the locker room, and I felt someone tugging on my shirt. And I looked around, and it was our head coach's secretary, Pam Cerati, and she told me, she said, "Hoper," she said, "Sally's in your office, and she's fixing to have the baby." And I said, "Holy smokes!"
Wow.
So I told Coach Snellenberger what was going on, and he said, "Well, hang on a second, I can help you with that." So he had a bodyguard or a security guy that took him on and off the field, which a lot of head coaches do. And he said, "Officer," he says, "hustle down to, go down to Coach Hope's office and grab his wife and hustle her over to the hospital." And we were at the University of Louisville, and the Audubon Hospital was just probably about a mile away. And so I got ready to take off and go with him, and he asked me where I was going. And I said, "I'm going to go to the hospital and be with my wife while she has our child." And he said, "Well, why in the world would you want to be in there for that?" And he looked at me like I had lost my mind. He said, "I wasn't there when any of my children were born." So I thought about it for just briefly for a second there, and I figured she's going to be around for a long time. But it was really an unbelievable event. We got in the car. The policeman took us over there, had the lights on the car. She was embarrassed, so she laid down on the seat so no one would see her. And then the doctor was outstanding. She had a radio in the delivery room so I could hear what was happening with the ball game. And I had all my game stuff and my hat backwards and my whistle, my game plan in my pocket, and I was there when my son was born, and I was back by halftime. So it was really an unbelievable event.
And of course, the postscript to that is Brett Favre throws a Hail Mary at the end of the game to beat Louisville. It's kind of like one of the greatest comebacks in college football history.
It is. There's a table book out somewhere that has some signature games in college football, and that one has been identified. And it was a Hail Mary, and it was a poorly thrown Hail Mary that actually ricocheted off someone's helmet and landed in one of the defenders who was misaligned, and he caught it. And that was the end of the ball game. But man, what a day! What a day! And I remember going back to the hospital to be with Sally and to be with Chaz, and later on that evening I remember Coach Snellenberger coming down the hallway. It must have been probably midnight after a tough loss like that to congratulate myself and Sally and to see our son. So it was a special day in our lives.
Okay, well, let's fast forward to today. I mean, obviously you guys are 1-2 off a tough loss last week, but you go on the road this week at Presbyterian College and you jump into conference play. I know last week was 19-7. The offense didn't kind of click on all cylinders, but you guys feel like you're still in a good position going forward, and hopefully get a win this week and jump into conference play and compete for that conference championship.
Right, absolutely, and we're a work in progress. And I can see it happening. I saw where we were at in spring football when I came here, and I realized that we had a lot of work to do on the offensive side of the ball, particularly. We have a lot of starters, a lot of players back on defense, and a defensive stack that was fully intact. We have almost all new coaches on offense and a brand new offensive scheme, and we had our work cut out for us throughout the course of spring, but I can see it happening. And by the end of the spring, I thought that we had taken a huge step offensively. I think when camp rolled around, we were ahead where we left off at in the spring, but we still were not game ready, obviously, and we're developing. But I see it happening. I can see the progress that we're making. We're not that far off. It's a lot of new things. Football has changed a lot. I had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of information. There's a lot to it. But we have good players. We have good enough players to have a good team and have a good season. We feel like that we have enough good players and enough people on our football team that want to win and be part of the championship, that we feel like we'll do very well throughout the course of the season. It's still going to be some growing pains and a work in progress, if you will, but I like what I see, the direction that we're going in. Sometimes it's not easy, and sometimes it can get ugly, but that's the way it is when you're building a championship football team.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, my friend, for being our first ever guest on the Richmond Register Sports Show. It was awesome. You've been a friend to me for a long time,
Absolutely,
and so happy to have you back. And it's great just to sit and talk with you. You got a lot of stories, like you said, a lot of them we can't tell on here. We could talk about Joe Tiller with you had the little the caffeine bean thing or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that right now. Okay.
You were up for like 3 days after that.
That was unbelievable. We were recruiting. We were recruiting a player in Texas, and he was from another country, and they had different cultures. And we went to his house and had an unbelievable meal. And the kid was going to commit to us. So we went back in a room, and they had the chairs all set up, and they brought this big silver tray out, and it had this bean on it, and it had these little dishes of stuff you dip something into. And he took out a small knife and a fork and shaved it into some small pieces and gave each one of us a piece of it to eat. We dipped it into sauce, and he said it was a custom from the country that he was from. And so we didn't think much of it. And the kid committed to us. We hugged his neck, and mom and dad, and everything was great. And we headed back to the hotel, got back late, and we had to get up early the next morning. And I went down to the lobby, and I saw Coach Tiller down there, and his eyes were all swollen up. I mean, he hadn't slept at all throughout the course of the night. And I'd been up all night long. And we looked at each other. I said, Coach, I couldn't sleep. I was up all night long, pacing back and forth. He said, me too. I didn't sleep a wink.
Yeah.
I said, what do you think it is? He says, it must have been that bean.
Yeah.
So we called the guy up and asked him, hey, what in the world was it? And he told me it was some type of most potent caffeine bean in the world that was native to the country that he came from. And let me tell you what, it kept us up, and we recruited the next day and never blinked.
Yeah, well, it could have been like a normal thing. You could have recruited 24 hours a day if you just would have
absolutely,
eaten those beans.
Maybe get some of that and bring it back for our team and get us ready to play.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you very much for being here, man. I appreciate it. It's special to have you on, to be the very first one. And I guess that'll be a wrap for the first ever edition of the Richmond Register Sports Show. It's been a blast. We'll do this every Thursday night at 9 o'clock. This will premiere. And be sure to follow us on Twitter. We're Richmond R Sports on Twitter. We're Richmond Register Sports on Facebook. And you can kind of always keep up to date with us there. And we put up tons of content and try to keep you up to date as much as we can. But thanks for watching. Once again, thanks for being here, Coach.
Thanks for having me. And, appreciate you a bunch.
Yeah. Have a good day, everybody. Almost 2 decades. That's right, I've covered local sports in Madison County for almost 2 decades. The Madison Central Indians, the Madison Southern Eagles, the Model Patriots, the Berea Pirates, the EKU Colonels, and the Berea College Mountaineers. I've covered them all. Football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, track, cheerleading, golf, youth sports, and more. It's all being covered by the Richmond Register. Join us for a brand new weekly sports program. Watch the Richmond Register Sports Show every Thursday at 9 p.m. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on all our social networks, and to subscribe to the Richmond Register online or get your own subscription delivered. If it's sports in Madison County, we cover it.